Welcome to this evening's event, What's Your Financial Style? In collaboration with SBH and Masila. Masila is an international nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering people to achieve and maintain long-term financial independence. Sephardic Bikor Holim, as you know, is a nonprofit organization in our community throughout New York and New Jersey. It has stood as a pillar of charity and volunteerism for over 40 years. Tonight, our speakers will be discussing the valuable ideals and topics on raising awareness on the value of financial stability and how to attain it, educating the youth with solid financial attitudes and habits, how to gain control of your finances to succeed, investing in ourselves, women at work, Shabbat and holiday expenses and prep. And without any further ado, I'm honored to introduce our esteemed speaker and moderator for this evening's event. Mrs. Dina Nahari, our honorary speaker, is a professional certified Masila coach. Masila is dedicated to strengthening financial stability in Jewish communities around the world. They believe that every individual, family, and business and organization can improve their financial situation and achieve economic self-sufficiency if they have the right information and motivation. Okay, now I'm going to need to glance at my notes. 1 second. Mrs. Sarita Bas-Salama is the Chief Information Architect for Corporate Technology at JP Morgan Chase. She is responsible for driving the data strategy, architecture, and governance across all corporate technology applications and creating transparency, lineage, and controls within the data landscape. Sarita has over 20 years of experience in the industry with excellence in leading large-scale cross-functional programs, managing large global teams, as well as specialized teams of engineers. See, there really are no glass ceilings. Please stay on and enjoy this valuable information. Take it away, Sarita.
Thank you, Sierra. There will be a quiz at the end about what I do at JP Morgan, for the record. So I hope everybody took notes, but in reality, those are very fancy words. It just means that I go to work every day and then I come home and I'm a mother. And so we're all the same, even though, my job description might sound fancy. I wanted to start off with, actually, first of all, I would love, if you guys are comfortable, to see your wonderful faces. If people are comfortable turning on their cameras. We're a very small crowd. We're going to talk about topics that hopefully you're very interested in. It should be interactive. My sister Pauline, thank you. It should be interactive. We really should have a conversation. Hey, Carol. Hey, Annie. Hey, Sharon. And of course, if you have to multitask and want your camera off or you don't want to be seen, feel free. Please, if you have any questions, type them in the chat. And at the end, we're also going to take questions. So think about what you want to get out of this conversation. It should be interactive. It should be to help you in your financial style and learn your financial education. So if it's going into a direction that you like and you want us to talk more about it, or you want to ask different questions, feel free. This is not a very highly scripted event. It's more a conversation between me and Dina and all of you. So that's number one. And the questions and answers, please keep them flowing. We'll probably take the questions verbally at the end, but put them in the chat as you think of things. So anyway, I wanted to start off with a story. When I was, hey Sonia, when I was about 14, I think it was like 14, it was Memorial Day weekend, and my grandmother gave me $100 bill. I don't know why, she gave me $100 bill. And my friends and I went on Norwood Avenue. We were gonna go shopping and buy little things, right? And I had the $100 bill in my pocket. And every time I went into a store, I'm like, this is not worth breaking a $100 bill for, And the next store, this is not worth breaking a $100 bill for. And my friends started making fun of me. They're like, oh, you just don't want to break the $100 bill. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, like there's something mental about breaking the 100 to a 14-year-old. But if I had 5 20s, in my hands, I probably would have spent it. I would have bought here and there. But so what is that that was going through my head that either kept me going or held me back from making those purchases? And it really started to get me thinking, like it's really a mindset about how I think about the spending power that I have, about how I think about um, the the power that I have to make those choices, either just to buy gifts for myself or to just, to pay for the things I have to pay. So, what is that mindset driving us? I also read a newspaper article recently that the headline said women are better with money than men. Okay. We don't usually have that reputation, right? We have reputation for being spenders and, blowing whatever money we get. But the headline is women are better with money than men. And it said if it found that men spend more money on impulse purchases, while women are more likely to set a budget and stick to it. So that's interesting. So I never thought about myself as a person that is financially, very regimented, and all women are financially regimented. I always thought, we just kind of fly by night, but that's not true. That the study said that we are better spenders. So what is going on here? Like, what is in that mindset of how I spend money, how you spend money, and what's really going on here? So the first question I have for Dina is, what impacts our own financial style? Each of us must have a different style. Can we modify that style? Is it with us? Is it like our personality? How does that work?
Okay, well, first of all, hi everybody. Second of all, Sarita, that was like 4 questions, not one, but I'll try and answer to the best of my ability. And I just want to echo what Sarita said about please like share, ask, because that's what we're here for. And if we can all just walk away with some learnings, that would just be helpful for everybody. So in fancy terms, or maybe in, financial terms, we call it a financial style, and everybody has one. And just like we each have styles that we like in music and in food and in clothing and decor, we also have styles in our finances and how we think about finances, how we relate to finances. And there is no good or bad in within your style, because that's how your style is. I don't want to say that's how you're hardwired, because there are outside influences that influence our style, but we each have a style. And as soon as we know about our style, then we don't have to ponder it from when we're 14, because we'll know that we have this is our style, and then we know what we're working with. So one of the things that impact our styles very much is our childhood. And everybody, grows up eventually, and how we were raised and how our families related to money, and how the culture of money in our homes shapes in a big way shapes our styles. If our parents were very, very generous and they were always spending, the likelihood that we'll be a spender is higher. If our parents were super frugal and no, you do not go and buy yourself ice cream, you come home and have 2 scoops from the container that everybody uses, then we'll tend to be more frugal. And this actually applies, to all things growing up, that we tend to, grow up with certain understandings and certain ways that we take forward. There's a joke in my family where when I was a girl, my father, if you wanted soda at the Shabbos table, you would pass your cup to my father and he would pour you soda, and we were little kids. So he would put like a cup of soda so we shouldn't spill it, we should drink it. I am married 20 years. If I go to my parents for Shabbos and I ask my father to fill my cup of soda, guess how much I get? Half a cup. Which is, I guess it's nice to know that I'm still a little girl to him, but the things that we do as children, the way we grow up, stay with us and shape us. And that's what we take with us. So, in every area, especially when it comes to finances. And the only time you have the opposite extreme is if our parents were extreme in their financial style. If they were so cheap that if you wanted to pay for something in school, you had to ask your uncle because they wouldn't give it, then we tend to resent that and we'll often go to the other extreme, and our financial style will be the opposite. And that's also something to know about. Like, what did I grow up with? where are my thoughts and what am I now? And one of the things that we do at Masila is when we coach people, one of the first things we do is we ask people about their backgrounds and how their parents related to finances. And it's fascinating because as soon as they start talking, they're like, oh my goodness, I never even noticed that about my mother or my father or myself. It was just the way we grew up. And that very much shapes our financial style. And knowing it allows us to be more comfortable with it and know where our strengths are with our finances and also know where our weaknesses. Did I answer all the questions, Sarita?
I think so. And I'm just thinking about seeing my sisters on the call, how we grew up and how our financial habits are a little the same and a little different, right? Because we all grew up in different times in our families and as different kids within the family structure. And I see my father on, and I'm sure he'll say, what to my sister Annie, and I hope Annie, you don't get insulted. But when Annie was a baby, we don't have any pictures of her. Why? Because we didn't have a camera. We didn't have a camera at the time. So Annie has pictures all over the house. I think as a way of saying, you see, I have all my pictures and stuff. But that's we all grew up in different parts of the family dynamic, and we're all the same but different, and so that really resonates. But thinking about it, sometimes I want to know if I'm spending right, if I'm spending on the right things, whether my style tells me to or doesn't tell me to. And I don't always know if I am free to spend on whatever it is I want to spend on. And when people toss around the word budget a lot. Is it within my budget? Am I sticking to a budget? What does that really mean? Especially when you want to buy some things that are just for fun, or you have to spend on some things that are a must-have. Does it mean that we have to have a formal budget? What does it really mean when we say we want to stick to a budget?
Okay, that's actually an excellent question. And I feel like the word budget for so many people is like a bad word. And it makes people like panic or worry or forget it. I'm never going to be able to buy myself anything nice ever again if I budget. Or that sounds like my mother-in-law, or they just get very, very nervous with the word budget. And it's interesting because I teach business and finance to 12th graders. And whenever I get to the topic of budgeting, I see so many of them be like, yeah, I am so not doing that. And the minute we rip it apart and open it up and see, hey, what a budget is, all of a sudden it's not so scary anymore. So Sarita, if it's okay, I'm going to break it in half. I'm going to say, let's first define budget and talk about what a budget is. And then we'll answer what you asked. Do I need to have it? Do I need to have a formal one? Do I need to have like an app on my phone that like you can have how many steps, the steps app, how many steps I took a day? Like, do I need to like have an app that tells me how much money I can spend today, down to the penny, and how does that work? So a budget, really what it does is it gives you the ability, it basically gives you the ability to spend on what you want. It allows you to know what I have, what I need to set aside, and what I have to spend on extra things. And it gives us freedom, and I don't want to sound like a teacher, like talking to our students in this sense, but how we always say like rules allow you to have freedom. If you know what your rules are and you know what your boundaries are, you can do what you want within those rules. And it allows you to breathe and be calm and confident because you know what you can do, you know what you can't do. And if you want something, you know how to go around it. My brother actually is moving into he renovated his house. He had to move out for almost a year. He's moving in next week. My sister-in-law is the main breadwinner. She worked extra hours for her company for 2 years, put it away, put that money away, and just did a beautiful extension on her house. She knew what she wanted. She knew how much money it would cost her. And she did not want to have to make massive changes to her lifestyle. So she budgeted that amount of money and she took the extra hours and she worked with her bosses who, by the way, totally spoil her, but I'm thrilled for her. And she's now completed this beautiful addition on her home and she's moving in without having to change anything in her regular lifestyle. You can only do that if you know your lifestyle, you know what your bank account allows, you know what you have coming in, you know what goes out. Then you can make room for all the other things that you really want when it comes to your finances. So that's the beauty of a budget. As far as if you need to have an exact budget, that circles you right back to your financial style and awareness and how aware you are, because everybody's different. Just yesterday at work, somebody told me that whenever there's like a big 70% off sale, all her sisters and sisters-in-law go running, and she does not go. I'm just so curious, like, why don't you go? She said, I don't go because I do not want to buy things just because they're on sale. I have no need for it. I'd much rather go to the store, buy what my kids need at full price, in the right size, in the companies that I like, and know that I have it, than go to a sale, pick through the racks, fight the crowds when I probably don't even need the stuff. That's her style. She was like telling me things about her finances. For her, she's so aware of her finances, her style of shopping, how advanced she does things. She doesn't need to have down to a penny budgeting because she's so aware of herself. There are some people who really have a hard time with awareness, and obviously we're talking about extremes and everywhere in between. They need down to the penny because that's how they function best. And they need to know, okay, I have this much money in my bank account. I want to buy somebody a gift. I'm going to take out this much, and this is how I'm going to work it. And I a couple months ago, I was doing budgeting with my students, and I threw out some different types of budgeting, and it was fascinating to see how they gravitated, how each girl gravitated to a different type of budget based on her way of thinking, on her knowing herself, on her style. And yes, they're young, they're 12th graders. It'll change over the years, and in Mitzvah Hashem, they'll be wise, and they'll have husbands to take into consideration and their styles as well. But that allows you to know, do I need an exact budget? And I'm sorry, Sarita, I can't answer the question for everybody, but really, hopefully at the end of the evening, you'll be more comfortable and we'll ask questions soon about, hey, what's my financial style and what am I? And then you'll create this awareness, and it will play itself out. The more aware you are, the more it plays itself out, the more you know, wait, I'm aware of my finances. I know what comes in, what goes out. I don't need the minute-to-minute budget. And for some people, they need the minute-to-minute budget. You know what else some people do? They budget backwards. They, instead of setting up their budget for the month going forward, they do their budget in retrospect for the month going backwards. How much money I spent, where I spent it, and then they add it up that way. And that's also fine. The main thing is that it should work for you in your lifestyle, with your relationship with your family, with the way you spend, the way you calculate, and that you should be very comfortable in your budget, because it's not there to be the policeman. It's there to be your friend.
I love how you said, the story about your family and building the house and everything, and feeling very empowered to spend the money. And it's a lot of money when you're building a house, and even to spend the money on other things when it's not so much money, but to just kind of feel that you have control over your finances. And one of the things I do is I keep a couple of different bank accounts, right? And I trick my mind into saying, you have enough money for different things. So I get a monthly paycheck, right? And I want to make sure that that monthly paycheck can pay for my regular expenses. That's how I work, right? And if I dip below and I use more than that month's paycheck, I get very upset. That's how my mind works, and I can't stop it from thinking that. If I dip into savings, I get upset from the monthly expenses. So what do? I keep a separate bank account of the extra money. And I tell my mind, okay, when it's the other expenses, like the down payment for tuition that we all, some of us are getting the tuition contracts this time of year, that, you have to give a little bit of money at the front. It's usually more than the monthly payment. I just sneak and I take it out of that other account. I pay for it there. My mind doesn't even think about that as being a payment. And then I can start paying my monthly expenses again. And nothing changed. It was the same bill, the same money, or fixing the house, I take it from the other account, not from the main monthly account, because then it'll dip below. And then I'll feel like, oh my God, what just happened here? Same money, right? But it's playing a trick in my head of feeling like I had the money to pay my bills. I had the money to pay for beyond the bills, whatever I choose to pay for. And it's not a budget per se. It's not nickel and dime every line item in the ledger, but it's saying, okay, you feel comfortable that you're within your spending power. So, and I'm sure each of us kind of have those little tips. And I think that those are all very healthy habits as long as we know, okay, it's within the money that we have, and it's within the power of spending that we have. So I love when you were saying, if you feel like it's a big purchase, I could spend it. It's okay. It's okay. But I definitely want to hear more about other tips on how we can juggle those budgets and really get a line of sight onto it. But before we go there, we thought to keep this a drop interactive and put a poll up just to get a sense of, our audience. And Jewel, I think you're going to put it up, right? So we wanted to know, oh, okay, okay. I thought we were going to do the other poll, but that's okay. What do you think your financial style is, without even going into explanation, but I'm sure you can all guess. We wanted to get a sense of you guys. Are you a spender? Are you a saver? Are you frugal? Are you a deal hunter? Does it depend on your mood any time of day? Just answer the question and we'll see how it distributes.
So Rita, if I may, while everybody's taking the poll, there's so much to unpack. And I think Julie told me you would be my timekeeper because I can sometimes run out the clock. When you talk about being okay to spend and allowing yourself to, I have this little thing, and I wonder if we could do a show of hands, I would love that. How many women relate to this? I can be a good girl and like work within my budget, but if my husband tells me not to spend, then I get very upset. I see Sierra raised her hand. And I can be on the same page with him financially even. And I can know, okay, now I need to be a little more careful. Now I can be a little bit less careful. And I can tell him I saw this, whatever, and I didn't buy it. And he'll be like, no, but he has to be the one that I know it's okay, you could buy it. Even if I really know that I shouldn't buy it because now's not the right time, he can never be the one to tell me you can't buy it. Anybody else besides Sierra like that? I'm just curious. And I think he's learned the hard way. And he knows, he just tells me, no, for sure, you should always buy yourself something, and then I'm much more empowered to not buy it because now it's on me. And he's not telling me what I should or should not do. So really for all of us to know that our own financial awareness is on us. And it's not for somebody else to come and tell you, oh, you're so stingy, you can't even buy an extra scoop of ice cream, or you're such a spender, you wouldn't know what a sale was if it hit you in the face. Nobody likes to be told you're not good at what you're doing, or you don't have any awareness, or you don't know. And one of the things I often find myself telling, especially when I'm doing couples for Mesila, if it's okay, I'm going to throw up a screen share. Let me just find it for a second. I blocked myself. Oh, here we go. It's not what I want. I apologize. Let me do it like this. Oh, I have to make myself a full screen. Okay. I want to say that I do this for not just for finances, it's for everything. Here we go. Sorry about that. It's your job to ask yourself the following question. It's your job to figure it out for yourself. And Sarita, when you're ready, we can do a few questions on how to figure out your financial style, but not to tell your spouse that he or she is the one to blame. It never works. I can tell you from experience, and I can tell you as a coach, it never works. And when we can be aware of it ourselves, it is so much more powerful and so much more empowering because we're much more honest with ourselves than we'll be when someone else tells us a shortcoming. Because nobody likes to be told you're not good at that. And because of it, I love this quote. I just love: awareness is the greatest agent for change. Because as soon as we're aware, we're able to change it. And as soon as someone else is telling it to us, all of a sudden it's a whole nother ballgame. We do not want to hear it. Sarita, you want me to ask the questions, show the questions now about the financial style?
Well, I'm just curious to know what the poll results were before we, what do we think we are? Oh, wow, it's like everything is even except for spender. We think we're not, none of us are spenders. I mean, 9% of us are spenders, which is very interesting. Maybe because it's a financial awareness class and most people that want to learn more about finances are less likely to be spenders. But that's interesting.
I think it's super interesting that saver and frugal have the same percentage at 23%. I wonder how many people think that they're kind of related. If I may, they're not really related. A saver can know how to spend her money. She's just not going to waste her money. Somebody who's frugal is going to think and rethink every penny they spend and try to make do with as little as possible. And maybe the frugal person has a nice bank account that they're sitting on, like under the mattress, all this money hidden. The saver can spend when they know they need to spend. They also just know how to save. And if we have time, Sarita, I don't know if we will, at the end, I put together a little bit of that saving is really a habit, okay? But I'm jumping ahead of myself. Maybe, hopefully we'll get to it.
Yes, for sure. So, but do you want to get into a little bit more of the financial styles? Is that?
Sure, we could do that. Okay, so ask yourself, do I spend too much in any area? Most of these questions are written on the spender side, but they go both ways. Do I spend too little in any area? Okay, do I spend more than I can afford? Wait, I'm gonna do it again. There's a cute little picture over there. Give me a second. There we go. Do I spend more than I can afford? Am I getting into debt from my spending? Maybe I'm too frugal. Again, oops, sorry about that. Let me just take it back. Here we go. Am I emptying my savings? Am I not being able to save at all? Even though I want to save, am I just emptying my savings? So Rita, I like your idea about that third account that's not really savings, but that's like a good overflow. So it's a good trick. Do I buy lots of fun stuff, but sometimes I don't have money for basics? Am I going crazy in the makeup department, but then I can't, buy the ingredients for dinner? Again, these are all just questions that you can ask yourself. Do I spend money to fill an emotional void? And I always have to stop here and say the following. Money and emotions are so connected in every way, and everybody reacts differently. And I love to share the story, and I'm going to try to be so quick. I have a friend who's going through something really hard. She called me up and she said, Dina, I am so stressed. I just went clothing shopping and I bought out the store. This is a friend of mine who is really very top of her finances. And she said to me, I am not an emotional spender, but my stress level of what I'm going through is so great that I felt like I had no other choice but just to go and shop. So even if that's not our go-to way of letting our emotions out, they're very connected. Do I use money as an outlet for negative feelings such as stress, fear, anger, or the opposite? Do I withhold buying things or do I do with my money because of negative feelings? Do I buy things that I do not use or need? Do I have lots of items in my house that I seldom use? Do I often regret making purchases after the impulse joy passes? I feel like a lot of us can relate to that one. We're out of the store, we see it, it's a good price or it's not a good price. We get in the mood, we buy it. And when we come home, we feel a little bit bad that we bought it. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't buy good stuff or nice stuff or treat yourself. And we'll get into that. This is just to help you figure out where do I fall on the spectrum? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and Sarita, take it away.
So Given that, Passover is coming, right? And it's a and we have the tuition contracts coming out, and we have the summer coming up soon, and we just came off of vacation, and there are all those kinds of things that, as part of the community, as part of being Orthodox, as part of just being people, we have these expenses. How do we stop thinking about, these are stressors, and we can get into like what causes all of us stresses financially, but how do we think about, not that these are stressors, but these are things that we are going to spend money on, like all the Passover food, like buying for the Seder, like buying all the clothes we're going to have to buy, and all of the things we have to do. How do we, in our emotional mindset, financial mindset, get comfortable with the expenses that we're going to have to spend and enjoy the holiday and not feel that kind of budgetary pressure and not get into that emotional sinkhole when it comes to spending money that we may not want to spend, in our insides.
No, that's a fantastic question, and it's a heavy loaded one. So the first thing I want to say is years ago I taught in a day school, actually in Ocean Township in Deal, and they had some remedial services that were provided by non-Jews. And one of these women used to tell us, we do not understand. We have the utmost respect for you ladies. You have families, you have little children, you're in school from 8 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever it was. You cook on a weekend what we cook for Thanksgiving once a year, and we stress about it for the whole year. You do it every weekend just for Shabbat. Forget your holidays, forget your family lifestyle, and you do it well. And they were always blown away. So everybody just literally like stick out your hand, bend at the elbow, bend at the wrist, and pat yourself on the back, because as Orthodox religious women, we do the unthinkable. We don't even, and what's even more is that we don't even think about it. It's just our life where those of us that go to work, those of us that work from home, do that. Those of us that take care of our kids, my respect all day, my respect goes out to you. I think I would lose my mind. And at the same time, we keep our homes neat. We cook for Shabbat. We host guests. We have family occasions all the time. And almost every month, there's some sort of holiday. And that's not even talking about tuition. We don't send our kids to public schools, so we're paying tuition. We're not even talking about the expenses of summer vacations and birthdays. And we always deserve a pat on the back, because this is something that to us is so natural, and to the world at large, they can't even begin to wrap their heads around it. So that's the first thing. On the flip side, when I talk to my students about this, I always tell them, go home and thank your parents, number one, because they don't have no idea how expensive it is. And the second thing I tell them is, if you want that extra pair of shoes that's still full price at $180, remember your parents paid for that. And now that you have a little insight into what goes into a budget and all that, think, you're old enough to think before you ask for the extra pair of shoes. And they'll appreciate it, and you can feel like, okay, as a child in a family, I'm doing mine. So I just wanted to put both sides of that out there before I answer the question. And there's so many answers. And one of the things that we do at Mesila is that we often, not forget, we often include what the Judaism into it, and that is that we know that Hashem pays us back for Shabbos and holidays. We don't know how much, we don't know when, we don't know how, but we know that it's not counted in our yearly calculations of how much money we earn. What we spend for Shabbat and holidays is not calculated. I will stick in a note of caution here. That doesn't mean we can go to the store and go on a huge shopping spree irresponsible because, hey, God's going to pay me back. It needs to be responsibly done, but we can be certain of that little piece of comfort. The other part is, and this goes back full circle to the budgeting piece, and that is that when we budget, we know what's coming up and we know what our expenses coming up, and therefore we could plan a little bit in advance. So a number of years ago, I had to make Pesach. I had 2 weeks notice. I had never made Pesach before. I had always gone out of town to one of my siblings. She couldn't have us last minute. It's 2 weeks to the holiday, and now I need to make my first Adarm ever, clean my house. She lives in a different season, so the clothing that I buy are not going to work because it's not yet warm enough here where she lives. And now I'm making Pesach. And Hashem had orchestrated that year we had filed our taxes earlier. and we had gotten our tax return, and that money went straight to pay for Pesach because I wasn't planning on having these expenses. Matzah and wine alone are expensive. Forget the meat and the clothing, and everybody wants to set their first beautiful Seder table. So no, that year I didn't go out and buy, 100% crystal. I went to a more of a cheaper store. I did glass instead. Knowing the difference, my Seder table was beautiful. My one mistake I might add was that I did not take a picture of my Seder table before the holiday started, so I can't even show it to anybody. But I will tell you, if I may say so myself, it was beautiful. And we know what's coming up. We know that Pesach is in this many months. We know the summer's coming up. We know after the summer comes the holidays again, and we're able to plan in advance and be able to kind of section it in our heads to say, okay, I could put this money away for Pesach. I can wait for Pesach this year. This I can wait after. My daughter just told me, hey, mommy, I need new shoes for Pesach. I'm going to have a disclosure. I'm going to make a full disclosure here. This is the first year ever in her entire life that her shoes from the winter are in perfect condition. They look brand new. So between me and all the people that are on here, if I don't buy her new shoes for Pesach, they're not black, her winter shoes, and she wears them, they look brand new. I don't know what she did this year. I think maybe she didn't like them so much. She didn't wear them so much. This is what I really think why they're in such good condition. But there are so many ways that as soon as we put our mind to it and say, this is coming up, and I want my holiday to be beautiful, and I want my experience to be beautiful, and I'm going to plan it out in a way that works for me and my lifestyle, then all of a sudden we're approaching it from such a different angle of help, I need to spend it. Wait, I know what I'm spending it. I know how I'm spending it. And if my focus is to be the wife and the mother and the matriarch of my home and create that atmosphere that I want, everything ends up with such a different focus that all of a sudden it's not such a big punch, because my focus is not just about my money anymore. My focus is about me and my home and how I function and what I need to function and be at my best, so everybody else around me can be at their best also. You know what they say? When mommy's not happy, nobody's happy. It's a nice expression. It's a true expression, because we really are the center of our homes, and our attitude and our minds and our vibes that we naturally give off, whether or not we want to, affect everybody. So when I walk into the store and I first go look at the sales section before I go to the full price section, and I'm very confident about it, my teenagers are also confident about it, because I'm setting the tone. When I'm going to say, hey, you know what? You got 2 new outfits for the holidays. You don't need more to start off the holiday. And in my head, I'm thinking I can always get her an extra outfit for Shavuot. Well, she'll be excited. I'll be new for her. And I'm happy about that. She'll be happy about that. When my husband says to me, can you just like rein in the meat, and can we just do a little bit more chicken? And I open up my cookbook and I find a recipe that's for a chicken dish and I am more excited about it, then nobody cares that I didn't serve meat one meal. And by doing this and think to myself, with my understanding of myself and my awareness of my financial style, my bank account, which we can also call budgeting if you'd like, and my way that I project myself and the person that I want to be and the environment that I want to create, and we put it all together, all of a sudden we are in a place of such inner control, and that spreads to everyone, and we can spend for the holiday, and we can even splurge on extra things that we really wanted for the holiday, and we can be so okay with it that when we actually set our table, even without taking pictures, our table is truly beautiful, and our mindsets are ready to embrace every minute and enjoy every minute of it. Okay, that was very long-winded, but I hope it answered the question.
So, but I do have a follow-up question. So
Sure.
talk about happy, and talk about, whether we're mothers, sisters, daughters, wives, whatever we are as women, and whether we're, if we're mothers, if we're stay-at-home mothers, if we are working women, at the end of the day, we have to start investing in ourselves, either to get ahead in whatever it is we're doing as either working women, as stay-at-home, whatever it is that our goals are, and stay happy and sane. Let's not forget sane. But can you speak a little bit about, especially as working women, we hear a lot, if I take this job and I have to pay a babysitter or a housekeeper, then net, I'm coming home with nothing, right? Because I'm getting my salary, I'm giving it to the housekeeper, basically, or whatever it is. Like I'm paying for the car, I'm paying for the commute, I'm paying for the housekeeper. Can you speak a little bit about that mindset of, investing in ourselves as working women or as stay-at-home mothers? There's an investment in ourselves as stay-at-home mothers, and what that mindset can look like.
Absolutely, Sarita. I'm so happy you asked the question because I feel like so often as women, we end up depleting ourselves because we haven't stopped for a minute and we haven't paused and we haven't said, what do I need in this moment for me? And a friend of mine called, she's a little bit of a political junkie. And this goes back during the election, and she read some, I don't know, headlines, and she got hysterical, and she called me and she said, I don't know what I'm doing with my kids, but the world is, going down fast and it's going to be awful. She was really inconsolable. And I said to her, I walked her through it, and then I said to her, do you ever give yourself time? She said, what does that mean? I work and I come home and I work and I come home. I said, do you ever just give yourself time to do something for yourself? Whatever for yourself is, do you ever do that? And she's like, no. She goes, you know something? I really need to get better at it. And I said to her, you would be so much calmer to listen to the headlines and you enjoy the reading the news if you had a chance to breathe. And so many times we have to ask ourselves, what is it for me in this? I had a friend of mine who worked so she can take the money, I kid you not, everybody, and pay for more cleaning help. For her, she wasn't getting to it. She didn't want to ask her husband to put out more money. She wanted a ton of hours. She wanted her cleaning lady to wash her linen, iron it, put it on the bed, to wash the dishes, be there to clean up after the kids at night, be there on the weekends over the holidays to wash the dishes. It's costly. They charge by the hour. It's costly. And she was in the middle of switching careers, so her money wasn't coming in. She took on more hours, and she said, for me, and here's the key, for me, this is worth it to work for this money to pay. She had about, I would say, probably about 30 hours of cleaning help a week. Now, in every community is different. In my community where I live, that is not common. And she realized that for her to stay sane and be okay with the hecticness of her day to day, this is what she needed. And as soon as this is the most interesting part, as soon as she was the one paying for it and made this decision, she was so okay with it because she realized this helps my home flow. This helps my home function. And we as women have to stop and say, wait, I am the motor of my home, whether I'm a daughter or a sister or a wife or a mother. And if this money is going to take care of childcare, and then I can get out and get dressed and put on a little lipstick and see other adults besides my 3 babies. So I come home and I missed my babies and I'm patient and I'm happy to see my babies because I got out and got some adult conversation, then this is worth it for me and my lifestyle. And if my lifestyle, I just want to stay home in my pajamas and play Magnet tiles with my little ones on the floor, that's great. And if for me, I want to go back for a degree and I'm going to work it out in my schedule and it's going to stimulate my brain and make me feel good about myself, then this is worth it. And as soon as we're honest, and again, it goes back to awareness, as soon as we're okay with being aware of ourselves and giving ourselves the ability to be what we want and make it work for ourselves, all of a sudden life changes. And I'm going to share a little personal something with you. So for years I teach, and every couple of years my husband would say, Dina, you're done. Teaching, as you know, pays abysmally, and you come home with a mountain of work. And he couldn't fathom it. He couldn't see me sitting up all night marking report cards, or if the school ran into budget problems, not even getting a paycheck, and I'm still making the phone calls to the parents, and I'm still coming in with new exciting lessons. He couldn't handle it. Okay, maybe he's a slow learner. It took him a while, but there was a pattern all of a sudden. Every time I left the school I was teaching in, I was like just not my upbeat, happy self. And every time I got back in front of that classroom, I was alive again. And I would come home to be the most, sit with my kids and play and laugh and dance and cook dinner and all that. And then all of a sudden he realized that I am at my best when I am in that classroom. And when he realized that, oh my gosh, my wife is much happier when she's out of the class, when she's out of the house and in her classroom, he's so okay with it. And here's the best part of it all. A couple of years after he came to that realization, I got offered the job I teach now. I teach 3 classes a week. So I have the best of both, where I'm home in the morning for my kids. Okay, once a week I'm not home when they come home, but I'm getting my little fix, and I come home from school on a high. It works for me. It works for my husband. It works for my children. And I'm very okay with it. And when people say to me, what? You go to, today's Wednesday. My class at Wednesday starts at 4:33. My girls are coming, my high school girls are coming home already. It works for me. And everyone across the board respects that. And we have to not be afraid to say, this works for me. And you know how you know when it works for you? When you know that you're happy. And then all of a sudden, everything else falls into place. And just to be a little bit lighter, I told this to Sarita when I first met her. My husband does grocery shopping for me, and I put Sanity once on the list of items to buy. He didn't know I was kidding. He went through the grocery store looking for an item called Sanity and got so frustrated when he couldn't find it. And he called me on the phone and he said, Dina, where can I find Sanity? And I said to him, I'm wondering the same thing. And then he knew I was kidding. And after he called me from being so mad at me for making him run around the grocery store, he was able to appreciate, the humor. Okay, I feel like I'm running over time.
My husband does grocery shopping for us as well, and we have a system where we put the things into the reminders list as a shopping list. I'm going to put that on the list tomorrow and see what he has to say. I'll let you guys know. But anyway, that was all the questions that I had. I wanted to pause and just see if you guys on the Zoom if this sparked any thoughts. If you have any questions, if you want us to go into more detail on any particular topics, feel free to raise your hand or shoot a question into the chat.
I have a question. It's Sharon.
Sure.
Hi. That was all awesome. Could we talk a little bit more about like some different budgeting techniques and ideas? Sarita, you mentioned one, but is there any others that we could I'm just curious to hear some ways that people budget.
Sure. Well, first of all, with the advent of Google, there's thousands of methods out there and hundreds of apps that you can, download and read up on that connect to your style. Mesila has something called the Vision and the Price. And if you want, I can throw it up here on the screen so you can see what it is. And I think that they're going to even email it out to you. Give me a minute, I'll share it with you and I'll explain it how it works. I just have to find that slide. Give me a second. Oh, here we go. So it's a vision, and you sit down if you're married with your spouse. If not, you do it on your own, obviously. And you have a joint vision, and it creates a goal. And there are a lot of pointers when you write this vision, and at the end, you'll see the sheet that they do it on. You want to do it together. You want it to be realistic. Like, don't write in 5 years, I'm going to have a beach house, a vacation to Alaska once a year, and I can go out to eat in whatever restaurant I want every night, because then you have no shared goal, because we got to be realistic. What do I really want? And the last one is to do it in a positive sense, not like I'm going to not spend anything. I'm going to be so frugal. I'm going to be so careful. I'm going to have all the money I need. No, I'm going to be calm about my finances. I'm going to enhance my income. I'm going to, it's positive things like that. And then you also want to write it in the present tense as if it's happening now. So I'll give you an example. This was actually from a real client of mine. Their son was 9. They wanted to make a bar mitzvah without a nice bar mitzvah without adding any debt. And their vision was that this is how they wrote it. I forgot their son's name, at his bar mitzvah. Our whole family is here. It's in the hall that all his friends are making their bar mitzvah in. We have a one-piece band. We have a delicious menu. My makeup and my wig is freshly done. We have a photographer. And I just can't stop beaming with pride at my bar mitzvah boy. And I just keep looking around and pinching myself because I know that my bank account is not going into debt, is not going into the red at this occasion. That was their vision. I finished working with them. I didn't know what their story was because it was a couple of years later. Happens to be about a year after the bar mitzvah, the husband called. He wanted to ask me something about buying a house. And he said to me, I just want you to know, we made the bar mitzvah. It was beautiful. And we did not go into debt making the bar mitzvah. How? Why? They created this shared goal and they wrote it in the present. And now here comes the part that makes it practical. The second part of the sheet is what's the price? And here you can see it. And Ms. Hila had to send, I think Siviti said we were going to email us out afterwards. What price am I willing to pay to attain this vision that I'm describing above? And they worked out, now that they're not going to starve for the next 4 years, and they're not going to not do anything fun for the next 4 years or have their children not get any new clothes. But whatever they said, she was gonna work more hours, and she figured out how she was gonna do that. He was taking a course for IT, and he knew that there would be more money coming in. They opened a Simcha fund. Anytime they had extra money, the money went into that fund, and that fund was not touchable. These are all part of the price that they were gonna pay to attain the vision. And if you ask them in hindsight, if this vision was worth it, they'll tell you absolutely. And now that they've reached their vision, they sit down and they write another one with another goal. And what are they going to do to make this vision be a reality? I hope that answered the question. Sarita, I'm sure you have what to add.
I just had another thought. It's totally different than the vision, but there's the fear factor. I think a lot of us are afraid to know really what our expenses are, how many expenses we have, how much money we really have in the bank, how much money we have coming in. But it could be very scary to think, okay, I have to pay the mortgage, I have to pay the car bill, I have to pay the tuition, I have to pay for the food. And I'm just gonna not really think about it every so often, right? I'm not gonna think about it. It's somehow gonna pay for itself. And I'm not gonna add it up because that's gonna be a sticker shock. But I think sometimes, like when you're on a diet and you don't wanna get on the scale, but if you get on the scale, you kind of are at peace with what's going on. It's the same idea with finances. If you sometimes have to add up what my real expenses are to really know what am I dealing with. And it could be good news or bad news. I could be, I could have too many expenses relative to how much money is coming in, or I could not. I could think that I have so many bills, but when I add them all up, maybe I do have extra money at the end. So I feel like some of us sometimes have to rip that Band-Aid off and just say, okay, what are the bills? Write them down, right? And we may be pleasantly or unpleasantly surprised like we get on the scale, but it's better to know than to be afraid.
Absolutely. If I just may add, once you know, you can deal with it. So one of the tips that Ms. Hila gives, which is new for me, is a lot of banks will work with you. So as soon as you know what you're dealing with, you can go into the bank and say, listen, I sent this overdraft from my account. Can you work with me? And if you don't know, so then you just end up falling more into a hole because you just don't know. And you have no way of dealing with it, which again, goes back to the beginning where we talked about awareness, right? So Rita, if you're aware, you can deal with it. And if you're not, then you're just kind of, shooting yourself in the leg.
I see some questions on the chat before we read those. Any other questions that people want to ask out loud? Don't be shy. All right, we'll ask the questions from the chat. Maybe you guys will think of more. So I think a lot of them are very much related, but the question that Rita asked, do you think that using cash is helpful to not overspend? And between credit and debit and Venmo, do you really even, get a sense for how much you're spending?
So that's actually a really good question. And it's a hard one to answer because everybody has their own financial lifestyle. I know when I was a girl and I I don't know how my parents did it. I kind of stayed oblivious, but shortly after I was married, I called up my parents and I said, I don't understand. I know you have no debt. And yet you went on vacation every year. Full disclosure, I'm one of 11. It's not like, my parent, and how did my parents do that? So I said to my mother, you got to tell me some of the tricks, because I was like so over my head. And she said to me this brilliant thing, which probably in today's day and age is even easier to do than it was then. Whenever she would go shopping and she used a credit card, she would come home, she would write a check for that amount and mail it out to the credit card immediately. And listen to how brilliant this is. First of all, she never paid in monthly interest because she paid off that amount immediately. Secondly, she never carried over a balance. And thirdly, people say when you use credit card, you can just spend away because I'll just pay for it later. But if you know that when you come home, you have to write out a check for that amount, you're not spending more than what's in your bank account. You can't. You're coming home, you're writing out a check. So even if it was spending more than the cash that she had on her at the time, she still didn't spend more than she could pay for because she knew she was writing out a check. Today, when we can just wire money, it's even easier. And so maybe you planned to spend only $500 on your grocery shopping, but now it was $600. If you're coming home and taking out that $100, A, it gives you pause. I'm going to do that. And B, you're not running up your credit card bills and now you can't pay it. So that, I just wanted to put that tip out there. I thought it was brilliant. There are many other ways that you can work without the credit card, because you could access your account right away. Now everybody has their bank app on their phone. Debit cards, take it out of your account instead of building it up. And all these again, there are ways where you can use the credit card and not be afraid of it, and at the same time keep your finances in check.
Thank you. I think there's one other question about any final ideas on, or tips on awareness about how to be aware of our style or our habits or our needs before we wrap up.
Okay, so I will tell you that not only am I a Mesila coach, I coach in private practice also, and I deal with a lot of mental health coaching. And no matter what your life is, across the board, awareness is the biggest tool. I always tell everybody, awareness is half the solution. Why? Because when you ask yourself, what am I doing? And you want to answer it, the biggest thing in your way is what Sarita touched upon before, is fear. Now I'm afraid about the answer. But as soon as you have the comfort of knowing, as soon as I'm aware, I know what it is. It's like when you have a little baby who's being very cranky and you don't know what it is, and the baby's not letting you sleep, and you're feeding and you're giving baths and you're hugging and you're rocking, and the baby's still sad. As soon as you get the baby to the doctor and the doctor tells you your baby has a double ear infection, here's a good antibiotic and it will take 2 days. All of a sudden you could deal with those 2 days of crankiness because you're aware. This is why my baby's crying. This is why my baby's sad. And this is what she or he needs to get better. And I can get through that because I know what needs to happen. So really being aware is asking yourself, being honest with yourself, and literally tuning in. When you go to the grocery store, do I go with a list? Do I not go with a list? Do I go when I'm starving so everything looks appealing because I'm starving and I just want to eat? Do I go with a friend and I'm schmoozing as I go down the aisle and I'm just pulling things off? Do I go shopping when I don't need to? What is the one item that I really want to buy? How can I afford it? Not, I can't afford it, forget it, I'm not getting it. How can I afford it? What do I need to do? And by constantly asking ourselves questions and being aware of, hey, if I have the answer, I can deal with it. Then all of a sudden it crops up in every area of my life. And the more you make it into a habit, the more you don't even think about it. And I know it sounds pie in the sky. It is, the minute you choose one little area to do it, you will see. Even if let's say you go out on errands, ask yourself, what is the first thing I do when I walk in the door? Everyone is different. Some people run to the bathroom. Some people kick their shoes off. Some people run to their, return their phone calls. Some people listen to their answering machine. Some people take a drink. Some people take a nap. Why would you ask yourself that? Because now you're aware. I'm aware of my habit. I'm aware of what I do. How do I greet my significant other, my child, my mother, whoever, when they walk in the door? Do I just pick up and say, hey? Do I stop what I'm doing and I look at them? What do I do right before I go to sleep? When I ask myself all these questions, I tune into myself, and all of a sudden it pops up at you and you have so much to work with. I'm going to jump topics for a second because I want everyone to see this. I hopefully you'll be able to see it. I think we're going to send this out also. I'll put as close as you could so you can see what it's a transaction record. This is actually 2 of them. You cut it in half, you fold it up, you put it in your wallet, and you can use it however you want. But basically it tells you the date, your income, your expenses, your item, your comments. I tried this. When I tried, I did it for cash. You ever go to the bank, you withdraw $500, you put it in your wallet, and a week and a half later, you have no cash. Where did it go? I don't know. I didn't do anything fun this week. I didn't do anything crazy this week. Leah could attest. I could do a lot of crazy things. Where did all my cash go? And then the minute I started writing it down, it was unbelievable. Gas, the dry cleaners, a pack of gum. And it wasn't bad things. I didn't even feel bad about it. It made me feel better because, hey, you know what? Now I'm aware of where my cash goes. I didn't know that before. And so if I like where my cash goes, perfect. If I don't like where my cash goes, I can look and see what did I spend that I shouldn't have, but I could have done better. And now I am more in control of my finances because I have an awareness of where my cash went. Some people do it for receipts. Some people do it for credit cards. Some people put it on their refrigerator. So as soon as they come in from doing their errands, they write it down. And again, going back full circle, financial style, budgeting, all these things are me and my lifestyle, where I work, if I work, how much money I spend on childcare, what outfits I buy for my children, what type of food I cook, what type of car I drive, what I do for leisure. Everything comes back to what works for me and how aware of it am I, and then I could truly be confident in it. I hope that answered the question.
I think we are so well educated beyond where we started an hour ago. So thank you so much, Dina.
Can I steal a few minutes? I just so badly want to show everybody the savings slide. It's so helpful.
Please.
I'm sorry, everybody. I tend to do that. I will say, when it comes to my students, I promise I dismiss them as soon as the bell rings. Okay, here's my screen. You have to see this because it was such an eye opener for me when I learned this that I want to share. I can maybe even make it bigger. I'm not going to take the time to figure it out. I think everybody can hopefully see it. Saving, is it so hard? Saving is a habit. And I thought that was so amazing because everyone says, I'm not a saver. Sorry, I'm not a saver. It's a habit. It's not I am or I am not. You create the saving. So look at these tips. Don't wait for when there's extra money. We will all never save money because come on, who really has extra? Even Sarita's secret fund, she takes out of it when she needs. So save it. Don't wait for when there's extra money, I'll save it. Even if you put away $5 from every paycheck in a savings, when you need it, you will have it. Start small, it adds up and creates a savings habit. It puts you in that habit. Start now. So put away $5. I don't know, officially Biden is giving everybody money. Take that extra money and put it in your savings account. Save your windfall. Here we go, from one to the other. When you receive an extra or a stimulus package that our great grandchildren will have to pay taxes on, save it, or at least a portion of it. Again, it creates that habit. Make your savings automatic. Today with direct deposit, your boss puts your paycheck right into your bank. Your bank can take out a percentage of it immediately and put it in an account, and then you never count that money as income. And when you need the money, it's there, and you never even calculated it into your regular expenses. And this is my favorite one of all. Pay yourself first. I'm going to put this money in savings. I work for my money. I'm putting $200 a month in a savings account and it's there. And you never count that money. And when you need it, you're making a wedding, a bar mitzvah, you're moving, where you want to just, you want to go on a splurge vacation, you have it. And it's really amazing that as soon as you think that way, you have a savings account just like that. Okay, I'm stopping. I'm sorry. I'm really stopping.
Well, I hope this is not the last conversation that we have on the topic, and I hope that everybody on the call really learned something or reinforced something that they already knew. And we'd love to hear feedback from all of you on, what was interesting, what you want to hear more about, what you don't want to hear about, how we can help in the future and moving towards, us really having control over our financial situations. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. We hope this is not the end of the conversation. We hope this is just the first of many.